I don't know. You probably got a point there.
So it was an alien.
I don't know. I mean, on the other hand, you could wonder if this farmer had a little still out back, you know, and was
Or if the
making his
window
own
smasher
medicine.
stopped by.
She may have had a visit from the window smasher. And more, Lewis.
All right. There was also a woman who flew into a panic and ran out into the woods to attempt to strangle herself with a towel. Another family man suddenly went to lie on some railroad tracks, taking 4 men to pull him off, after which he just vanished. Several people in town simply walked out into the frigid weather and allowed themselves to calmly die of exposure. And many people were also found dead in their homes, having died of starvation, even with food lying nearby. Adding to the list is a man who asked the time of day and then drank himself to death at a bar. Another who killed himself at the same bar by eating cigar butts. And another who ordered a drink and then blew his head off. A farmer decapitates all of his chickens and burns down his farmhouse, convinced that the devil has taken over his farm. On top of this, countless people were being hauled off to insane asylums, and it was as if everyone had just suddenly and completely gone stark raving mad.
I know. I mean, it seems like an insanity hit the town.
Did they paint with lead at the time?
Yes.
Possibly.
Yeah.
What if they all painted their houses?
Yeah.
I mean, lead poisoning.
I just
could
can't
possibly.
see this many occurrences happening for no reason.
And like I said, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg here.
Yeah, and at the time it was not just lead, but there was also a green paint that was commonly used in wallpapers and in painting rooms that actually had arsenic in it, I think.
Wow.
And it was only found like in the 20s and 30s that this would actually poison people, especially if they were sleeping in those rooms.
Wow. I mean, it could be, like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
Of negative events just all happened to settle on this town at one time. Like I said,
or it could be a curse.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a curse.
The Indians, they did kick the Indians out and took their land there.
Yes.
And it's well known that there's Native American curses. So.
Yes, and we've talked about that, and I am going to want to mention that and talk about it in our conclusions, as we come to the end of it. But
here's
go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going on to the next thing.
That's what I was doing.
Okay.
Here's a quote from the newspaper at that time. The town of Black River Falls seems gripped by some peculiar malaise, and the weekly news is dominated by bizarre tales of madness, eccentricity, and violence amongst the local population. Suicide and murder are commonplace. People in the town are haunted by ghosts, possessed by devils, and terrorized by teenage outlaws and arsonists.
Wow.
That was actually in the newspaper.
Yeah, that was at the time. They wrote that at the time. People in the town are haunted by ghosts, possessed by devils, and terrorized by teenage outlaws. I guess they didn't have any adult outlaws. But they're gripped by some peculiar malaise. I mean, it's just uncanny what all this goes. I mean, when I came across this some time back, I'd never heard of it. And then I read just a real brief outline. I'm like, oh my God. All of this dark, macabre activity within just a short period of time. So was there a curse? What would have caused all this death and destruction in one small town? Could, like Dagny said, could the Ho-Chunk tribe have cursed them for being dispersed from their land? It may never be known. And I'll say this about an Indian curse. We've talked about it on the show before, but the Indians get blamed for a lot. I mean, they really do. And
They do.
And I don't like that personally, but it's still a possibility, you know, because it is common knowledge that these Indians were pushed off their land and made to absorb into the culture at the time, and they could have resented that. And whether or not they had a witch doctor, you know, speak a curse, who knows? But there was something dark and macabre happened in the town of Black River Falls, Wisconsin, in that short time period. And even though officially they came out of the insanity and the famine and the disease, there have been some strange things happening since then. Selena, you want to read that first one? We'll start our rotation again.
Okay, The Hauntings. This is from ghostsofamerica.com. I moved into my Black River Falls apartment a little over a year ago. Within about 6 months, strange things started happening. My wife and I both had the experience of feeling someone sit next to us on the bed. About a month ago, I was turning from the kitchen into the hall leading to the bedrooms when I came face to face with a full-bodied apparition of a middle-aged woman. She vanished, but I got a really good look at her nevertheless. On another, more recent occasion, I saw my cat staring at a place on the wall near the ceiling adjacent to the living room closet. I went to see what she was looking at, and I saw a yellowish-colored orb float across the ceiling and disappear into the closet. The cat then went to the closet and stared at the door. When I opened the door, she ran quickly away, though the orb was no longer visible to me. This was submitted by Bibliophile.
Wow. So they're having some paranormal activity.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, a full-bodied apparition of a middle-aged woman, and then the cat sees something.
Yeah, kitty cat.
You know, we all, I mean, are kind of open to the fact that the pets are more open to the paranormal usually,
especially cats.
Yeah. Oh, that reminded me. Y'all remember the cat that showed up in our show? What it Lizzie Borden? I mean, I actually went back and found the recording where we were talking about this ghost cat that was seen, and then you hear it. I just heard it again. I'll have to go back on this recording and see it. I just heard a cat meow.
May have been me just laughing.
Oh, I don't know. We'll go back and check. But when I went back and checked,
I was muted. It wasn't me.
On that Lizzie Borden show, we heard a cat meow. And
wow,
my cat is out of the room.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back and check. I'm going to go back and check. So I'll mark the time. We're at 43 minutes, so it was like 43 and a few seconds. I'm gonna go back and check the time and see if I heard a cat. Okay. On Harrison Street in Black River Falls, this person says, when my grandma lived there, when I was around 6 in 2005, I did experience lots of horrifying things like TVs being thrown and blown up in front of us, voices and dishes thrown at you. It was submitted by David. TVs being thrown and blown up. Wow. That's some serious poltergeist activity.
Yeah.
They're getting dangerous now.
Yes.
My sister's having unusual events. She lives in Black River Falls as I do. As do I. I believe this place is an old logging camp. They tore up walls to renovate a week ago. Ever since, weird things have been happening. Particularly, there's a stone by her door. She always looks at it as it looks slippery. She walked about 10 minutes prior with nothing on it. Particularly, there is a stone by her door that she always looks at. Okay, I get it. Sorry. She walked about 10 minutes prior with nothing on it. Next time she walked out, there was a necklace of a cross, and she heard a man's voice as she picked it up. And that's submitted by an anonymous.
I mean, that's just creepy. You know, that someone would leave that on this stone sitting out by her door. And you jumped ahead of Lewis, so
Yeah, I'll take the next
Lewis.
one.
Okay, go
It's
ahead.
fine. Many people have experienced weird things and seen ghosts at the Rustic Mill Supper Club outside Black River Falls. One of the ghosts is named Gus and is known to be a prankster, and one is said to be one of the former owners of the nightclub Keith Ferris. The place is a local historical landmark that was an old grist and flour mill called the Charter Oak Mill, built around the 1870s. And from what I was told years ago, a few deaths happened as mill accidents. Others have seen a ghost cat. And once in a while, you could see someone down by the creek where the old water wheel was. Things also disappeared a lot when the staff went to go get something like water pitchers for the coffee pot, or the bar TV turned on by itself when no one was at the bar. Gus likes to flirt with the girls and play with their hair or pinch their behinds while in the ladies' room or by the bar. Submitted by Kristen.
Wow. Gus is a troublemaker. Gosh. But there's a ghost cat popped up again.
Yes.
And it was, I think, which it was the on the hunt of the Banshee. You told a story about a meal, didn't you? From the American Revolution.
Yes.
There was a water wheel meal story in that one. Cool. We may have to check into some of these. Lewis, I don't know if you have done these wheels.
Wisconsin is way out of my territory.
Oh, I know, but I'm talking about in the South, since I know you do the South.
Oh, yeah. I can see a lot of parallels in many of these stories.
Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. Selena?
Okay. It appears at dusk you can see the images of two traveling salesmen in the swamp off of Highway 54. Story is that the two men were traveling through Black River Falls when their car had broken down. As they started to walk to the nearest town, another man had picked them up. And instead of giving them a ride into town, he murdered the two men and discarded their bodies into the swamp. Today, if you happen to see these two men, it would most likely happen in your back seat without you knowing till you hit the town line and they ask to get out there.
Whoa.
Otherwise, the men, one wearing a hat and the other wearing a long coat and carrying a briefcase, can be seen waving in the swamp at passing cars. This was submitted by David.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another for our road series, Haunted Highways, Strange Highways. Yeah. These two guys hitchhiking, another ghost hitchhiker. Wow. Now, from BFRO.net, we have a sighting. The BFRO net, as you know, is the Bigfoot Research Organization website. And you can actually go in there and look up by state, by date, by region. I mean, there's so many different ways. But this was a posting. I thought I had the date, and I'm sorry I forgot to put the date on there. I thought I had. But this person says, I work up to 2 a.m. in the morning. I drive home on Highway K that goes up through some good wooded area near Hatfield, Wisconsin. Anyway, there are some sharp turns, and you can't drive too fast on this highway. As I was coming down the road, I saw a dark figure half in the road and crossing into the other lane. My headlights had hit about halfway up its body. At first, I thought it could have been a deer, but deers are light brown, and this was dark brown. And it was walking upright on two legs. As my van was getting closer, the headlights were moving up its body. I could see more that it was walking. Then it was in the ditch and went into the tree line. As I said, it was about 2:15 and I was alone. I wasn't going to stop or slow down. And I told my kids about it the next day, and they said they hear stories at school about Wazee Lake, which is outside of Black River Falls. So we have a possible Bigfoot sighting in Black River Falls.
Tom, do you happen to have a year for this next item? Because it just says July 11th.
No, I do not. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I did on some of the others. I don't know why I didn't get it on that one. Go ahead.
The Syracuse Post-Standard on Friday morning, July 11th. A strange creature made its appearance in Black River near the Court Street Bridge.
I remember now. This was from back like in the 1930s and 40s.
Oh, right.
It was, I mean, you can tell by the way it reads
that
it's from an earlier era. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. A strange creature made its appearance in Black River near the Court Street Bridge early this afternoon, and tonight certain citizens, perfectly sober, are swearing that the thing, which paddled upstream, then dove from sight, was nothing more or less than a true species of sea serpent. Just how it made its way over dams and falls to get to Watertown isn't very plain to the beholders, yet this is regarded as a matter of secondary consideration. There are others who claim that the creature was a pet alligator, which escaped some time ago. The incident attracted a big crowd to the Court Street Bridge. Proprietors of stores in the vicinity deserted their businesses to take a peep at the creature. Thirsty ones at neighboring bars left their drinks but half finished. Men at work in mills rushed to the windows, while small boys appeared with air rifles. The creature swam around for a few minutes and then disappeared.
Wow. Some kind of strange water creature.
Definitely the wording gives away the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was early 20th century, somewhere in there. Dagny, do you want to tell about the UFO sighting?
Okay, this is UFOhunters.com. It was sighted on Wednesday, the 13th, November 2013. And then reported on Wednesday, the 20th, November 2013. The shape was a fireball, and the duration was a minute. It's from NUFORC.
Yeah, the National UFO Reporting Center.
I'm so glad you said that because I couldn't remember what all the words meant. The letters meant.
Yeah.
And this was bright orange lights over Robinson Road, hovered, then vanished. Took the dogs out to their kennels at about 10 p.m. After about 15 minutes, they started barking. Warning bark. I went outside to see what was going on. When I walked down to the kennels, I saw a bright orange light appear from behind the kennels, which is an all-wooded area. It shot above the trees, moving fast, and headed north over my driveway, then stopped and hovered for a minute. I thought it was people shining deer at first, then thought shooting star, the dogs still barking at it. I quickly realized that it wasn't. It had two orange-shaped lights in a round-type sphere that looked to be one orb, but quickly vanished. The moon was bright last night, so I could have seen an object in the dark. There was nothing there.
Wow. We had one over downtown Mobile that was described the same way. an orange ball of light. We used to talk about it on our tours. Selena may even remember that, but I used
Yeah.
to tell the story of the ball of orange light that flew over downtown Mobile.
Mhm.
You know, and you don't. Those are not real prevalent. The orange balls of light. I mean, you hear bright white light, like the Pascagoula abduction with Charlie Hickson and Calvin Parker. They saw just a bright white light, but and an orange ball of light. Selena, do you want to close this out?
Sure. UFOWisconsin.com. A buddy and I were late season deer hunting on December 8th in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. We started up the grill and were cooking food. We looked up in the cloudless sky to admire all the stars. Suddenly, toward the southern horizon, we noticed a bright light, larger than any star in the sky. It was not flashing, it was moving at a constant speed from south to north. While above in the sky, it appeared to slow as if moved away from the earth. Explained later. It was too big to be a satellite, but we did not completely neglect the possibility. However, it was moving faster than a satellite. It was too big, and it did not stay a constant size. As the object went further north, the size began to appear to decrease as it was moving away from the Earth. The object continued north, and it was visible in the sky for almost a minute, until suddenly it vanished, well before the horizon. It did not appear as the object was orbiting the Earth because there was no curvature in its path. It moved in a straight plane, in a tangential plane to the Earth. For example, if Earth was an O, the object moved like a slash in the sky.
Wow.
So together, O slash. We did not witness the appearance of the object. We just looked south, and there it was already in motion.
Wow.
But we watched the object until it vanished suddenly. The brightness remained the same, but an obvious change in size occurred as it moved north, and then it just vanished. The sky was completely clear. We concluded that the object just vanished because there were stars all around where the object disappeared. A satellite would not disappear in the sky. We would have lost it in the horizon. We have witnessed satellites on numerous occasions. This was not a satellite. It was not a shooting star because it was in the sky far too long, and thus we were too slow to be one. Not sure of the difference, but we considered it may have been a meteor/asteroid. Never seen one, but the object seemed too bright and too large and too close to the Earth to not hit it or be reported somewhere as an asteroid/meteor. That night, after we saw the light, we spoke about how we did not believe in UFOs and such, but we have to wonder what it was in the sky. Any explanations? We were also aware that south of Black River Falls there's a military base where they commonly practice flights in F-16s and other military aircraft. We know this because when we are hunting and sleeping at night, they fly over hundreds of feet above your head, and you can hear them loud and clear. On this night, there was no noise, no flashing lights, and not even a plane would be as bright, large, and suddenly it would disappear as this object did.
Wow.
To estimate the largest size of the object when it was overhead, we would say it was probably 3 times larger than the largest star in the sky. When it disappeared, it was probably just as big as the largest star in the sky. I did some research, and in Rice Lake, Wisconsin, on November 27th and December 11th, 2007, there were sightings of lights in the sky. Connection? I was going to pass posting this completely until I found out there were these sightings as well.
So he found, whoever this poster was, found out that there were other sightings at the same time. Basically, somebody else saw the same thing he did. Sounds like, and that reminded me. Uh, the debunkers and the government have tried to say, well, that's you just saw an airplane or you just saw a helicopter. And I was listening to a podcast today, and it was like, how dumb do they think we are?
Yeah.
Do we not know by this time in our society what an airplane looks like? And if it's out of the ordinary, then it is out of the ordinary. It's and then the debunkers and the government tries to say, well, no, you thought it was that, but it's something else. It's this over here. This it's like, how stupid do you think we are? Give us some credit here,
So they were just saying that there's a military base nearby.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
Maybe
that
they
was
were playing with some chemicals over there.
well, but that was my point. He mentioned this, that they had seen some of these military flights pass over, and they knew what they were, and they knew this wasn't it. That wasn't that, So, well, Black River Falls, Wisconsin, has seen its share of the macabre, the unusual, and most definitely the strange. Final thoughts, Lewis?
Well, as a historian who I spend my day reading all these back issues of the local paper, I have seen similar stories in our local paper from the same period.
Right.
And part of me, after reading all of these stories, my town's history does not have anything as massive as the mills closing or anything like that. We were affected,
Right.
at least partially, by the Great Depression and such. But I think if you take all of these stories out of these historical newspapers and kind of put them together, it does appear that perhaps there was something very strange going on in this small town.
Right.
But to speak to what Dagny said earlier, she suggested that perhaps this was happening all over the place, and it really was.
Right.
And I read about these horrific deaths on a almost daily basis. So,
Sure.
there were people dying of disease. There were lots of children dying from all types of causes.
Mhm.
Just yesterday, I came across an article about a little girl who was playing with matches and caught her dress on fire and burned to death. And it was really horrible, and especially how the newspaper described it. But, so, you can kind of attribute this to something being paranormal. And, of course, then you can bring in the ghost stories and UFO stories. My town just has just as many.
Yes.
So, I don't know particularly if Black River Falls is all that unique in terms of its dark history.
Right.
But it certainly is an interesting town to look at in that regard.
Right. Exactly. Well put. Yeah. I mean, I had thought the same thing. Dagny, final thoughts?
I'm a real big fan of Twin Peaks. And I really felt like that was almost like the real version of Twin Peaks. And I liked hearing about it all. It's horrible. I'm glad I didn't live there at that time.
Yeah.
But now I'm really interested in doing more research.
Yeah. As well as your little puppy dog. You got him all excited. Selena, final thoughts?
I think all these stories are very interesting. I would like to learn more about this, about Black River Falls. I think it's very tragic. A lot of things that happen. It's very sad. But at the same time, there's a lot of unique things that have happened in this world, paranormal, ghost things,
Mhm.
and but definitely it's very interesting. I'd like to learn more.
Wow, cool. Well, it makes me question a couple of questions. One, was there a portal or a vortex opened over Black River Falls for a few years and
Yeah.
all kind of evil flowed out?
Hmm.
Was it a paranormal thing? Was there something in the water? Was there something in the soil? Um, you know, and I fully and wholeheartedly agree with Lewis and what Dagny started there. I just wonder, if a magnifying glass was put on one little town for those few years,
Yeah.
because the death and the devastation and the disease, it was happening everywhere. As intriguing as the book Wisconsin Death Trip, and as intriguing as researching all this is, I I really kind of fall into that, where I think it was just focused on, it was like everything was happening everywhere around the United States and the world, but they shone a spotlight on Black River Falls and it all showed up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's like it wasn't really noticed. And Lewis, I'm glad you pointed that out. That as a historian, you're seeing this all the time, and it happened in your town. It happened in our town. It's happened in every town that has any age on it. You will go through these times of devastation and destruction and disease. It happens. Mobile has had countless yellow fever
Yeah.
epidemics and just about wiped out the town,
True.
and they'd be burning bodies, so to say that Black River Falls is special is, I think, again, putting a spotlight on it, and holding a magnifying glass over it, and just pulling it out for the world to see, and that it's probably not any more paranormal or cursed than any other town.
It
you
makes you
know
wonder if that's the case, though, then what the heck was going on with those 10 years, approximately,
yeah.
in the world? Like, was a vortex open for the whole world?
Yeah. Well, I'm just open to that possibility. While I know this was going on, but the intensity that was in Black River Falls, was it a vortex, or was that just because we focused a spotlight on it? I don't know, because, like I said, I don't know all the details of the history of Mobile, but I know we've had our share of every bit of that.
I think I'm going to pick a town and go read their newspapers for those 10 years and see just a random town and see what happens.
That actually sounds like a
Well,
good idea.
if you come to LaGrange, I can certainly
He can
hook
hook
you up
you
with
up.
all of those papers and the notes from the county historian. And
It's crazy, Lewis, because I lived in LaGrange, Illinois at one point.
Oh, wow.
So every time you say that, it's strange to me.
Another strange
oh
LaGrange.
wow,
Speaking of, I think our next show is, I'd have to go back and look, but I think it's one of the strange states, but I think we picked out Kansas, which Tim has already told us a bunch of Kansas stories, but we want to focus on stuff that he's never told us. So I think that's the next show, is Strange States, Kansas. But we're going to close it down now, folks. Is there anyone here with us? Did you hear that? Can you tell us your name? Well, thanks again for joining us, watchers. We appreciate you watching. Thank you, Lewis, Dagny. Thank you, Selena. It was good to see you guys again, and great to have you with us. We will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye, everybody. Stay safe on your stream.